Hey everyone, welcome to the Breakaway podcast. Brian and I had a little conversation in our Breakaway breakdown about how sports media and specifically Steve Kerr has responded to the horrific and evil school shooting in Texas. We really do believe and adamantly believe that things that Steve Kerr and the support from sports media, who is dramatically left-wing, and that's why they won't ask follow-up questions that we're going to get into, are actually dividing us. And they're hurting us right now. And I think it's going to make kids more unsafe in the future. So with this school shooting, again, too, we have our thoughts and prayers and sending all our condolences, heartfelt condolences to everyone that's been affected by the school shooting out in Texas. So when we say things like this, we can empathize with Steve Kerr's humanness, with our hurt that we have in our country, the hurt that is in Texas, while at the same time exposing someone like Steve Kerr in sports media that is literally saying the right is the reason that school shootings are happening and that these young kids are losing their lives. And I think that is absolutely disgusting. And what we got to do is we got to be solution-oriented. So if Steve Kerr's going to go up there, clearly emotional, he's pounding on the table, enough is enough. I agree, Steve. I agree enough is enough. I don't want to talk about school shootings. We literally just talked about the Buffalo shooting last week. This stuff breaks my heart. But if you're going to provide a solution that says that 50 senators have done absolutely nothing and it's been sitting on their desk for 2 years, it hasn't been sitting there for 2 years, it's been sitting there for a year, and there's a reason why this stuff isn't pushed because you got H.R. 8 that it brings up, and it's also accompanied by H.R. 1446, and you also got H.R. 127, and it's taken away gun rights from law-abiding citizens. And if he says something like that, you have a sports media journalist that needs to sit there and say, Steve, I would like for you, even though it's an emotional time, maybe wait for the next day, a couple days. Provide the evidence of how this is actually going to help. You take guns away from good people, law-abiding citizens. Is that actually going to stop criminals from doing this? And if you don't have an answer to that, what is the solution? Because we're hearing reports, and I definitely remember this, 2 years ago, he said that the Oakland Police Department should have no presence on schools whatsoever. And it's just, you're creating these gun-free zones, and you're wondering why these shootings are happening, and we're not getting into the moral issue of everything that's going on in our society. There's been a cultural shift. We're in a godless society that coddles criminals. Look at what happened with BLM. You let people destroy cities, burn cities, kill people. And you have the now VP that was trying to bail these people out. Can we get to the bottom of that? Because I think right now, too, this is stomping on the graves of these kids and their families. And again, my heart breaks for them. But this is not the way to find a solution and a remedy to this tragedy.
Yeah, and so, let's talk about Steve Kerr for a second. Because, I want to try to understand the person, who, when they say stuff that I just fundamentally disagree with, I don't want to just assume they're my enemy. Steve Kerr, when he was 18 years old, his dad was the president of the American University of Beirut. It was 1984. And his dad was assassinated by a militant group of Islamic jihadists.
Devastating.
And so a guy like Steve Kerr, obviously, he has, for a long time in his life, he's been very sensitive to gun violence. Where I will then very much disagree and really be disturbed at Steve Kerr's comments is when he calls these people who disagree with him in the United States, because of horrible things happening by evil people, he says that our duly elected public officials that are on the opposite side of the aisle from him, that they're only doing these decisions to hold on to power, as if they don't care about the fact of these tragedies.
What a disgusting take.
I don't like that.
To say that these people in power are accomplices to this evil, it's like, man, be upset, but that is, no. You can't do that. And then no one is... I know we say things when we're emotional, Brian.
Yeah.
We've been plenty of times, whether it's with family, coworkers, romantic relationships, and we say something we might regret. But I feel like that's why it's like, okay, clearly he's emotional. We can't let our emotions allow us to get into this we must act now mentality. That's like, we obviously I want to do something right now too, But this isn't a fixable thing where you just pass this bill and then voila, school shootings are down 50%, 75%, almost eliminated. That's not the way it works.
Yeah, because H.R. 8 is mostly about, what it's marketed being about is about universal background checks. And he talks about 90% of Americans are in favor of universal background checks. And it's that's true. I myself included. A universal background check wouldn't have stopped this evil person from getting that gun because he didn't have a criminal record. There was nothing that would have been flagged there that we know of. But that's also why we should. There's a good we're only talking about this because we're responding to Steve Kerr. The truth is, we probably shouldn't even be talking about this right now because we don't know everything yet.
Exactly, because that's where we are so reactionary on both sides. I can be reactionary too. I'm not doing this perfect. But the way I at least try to react is saying, I want to find out what is the best solution based on the evidence and the facts of this case. And if right now we're going to spew things out, we saw a lot of fake news about the Buffalo shooting. People didn't read the manifesto. They're going to all of a sudden just be, it's a black and white versus thing. So it's a racist thing. And then now it's this person, did they watch Fox News? Are they affiliated with Turning Point USA or something like that? Everyone loves to go to this extreme, and then we're totally devaluing the hurt that these families are going through. And that is based off faulty facts. And I think there's a lot of people right now, whether it's individual journalists or outlets, they're just trying to divide us more. And if they divide us more and you start bringing up ideas like common sense gun laws, look at that phrase. They're just it's just got to make sense, right? This would stop everything. This is common sense. Steve Kerr had something to say about the Sacramento shooting. You know who he should have blamed? It's the governor of California. Because of his weak on crime, soft on crime agenda, this person who should have been in jail was out in the streets and killed people. We're not talking about the mental health aspect. And then I love that you bring up Steve Kerr's human. I don't think Steve Kerr's an evil guy. No. Steve Kerr's a guy that just feels hurt just like the rest of us. And someone I know commented on my post and was oh, this is just fake outrage. And he doesn't really want real solutions. I was no, I think he actually feels. I totally disagree. I think he's emotional, but I think he's misguided in his solution. So it's let's have a conversation about this. And I know this hurts. And I know people might be pissed off that we talk about this. But if you tell us to be silent, what agenda is going to be pushed right now? The Steve Kerr agenda. That's it. He's not a politician. He's not a leader and someone enacting laws. He's obviously another American that feels hurt. But why are we elevating his voice and not having a conversation based off these comments? Even what Mark Spears tweeted out. Here's a quote from Steve Kerr. 50 senators in Washington are holding us hostage.
Yeah, it's such charged language. I can't believe because look, Steve has a track record of just pumping out because Steve is a very far left individual. Just absolutely goes after Democrat talking points, and I'm not about being Democrat or Republican. It's just that's where he tends to align himself, and a lot of times, as we see with him wanting Oakland police officers not on Oakland school campuses, his solutions are just not smart. They're just they're not intelligent. No. It's not that they're not intelligent. I think they're dumb, but it's that they aren't going to work. Because the truth is, you have to defend your children from bad people. My goodness, I lived in Mexico, and they have no Second Amendment rights there. It is very hard for just a law-abiding citizen to own a gun there, and I heard gunshots all the time. Plenty of people have guns there, but the problem is it's the corrupt police officers and the cartels, and that's a terrifying way to live. My friends in Mexico, that's just their norm, and I don't want to put words in Steve's mouth, but the people who think the way he thinks, what they want is they don't want common sense gun laws. They want all our guns to be taken away, and that would lead to an entirely different sort of chaos that we don't want to live in.
Because that's where we get to this. I hate that we have to have these conversations, but I think they're important. because I think we should be focusing on like how do we take care of the families, like emotionally, and then just like lawfully. I think that's when we get into like an old Steve Kerr quote where he said, I think this was after the Sacramento shooting, I don't think moments of silence are going to do anything. Similar to what he said here after the Texas shooting. He said, at some point, our government has to decide, are we going to have some common sense gun laws? It's not going to solve anything. It's not going to solve everything, but it will save lives. Explain that. That's that's what we talk about on the show as we wrap this up. When LeBron James says that black people are being hunted every time that they leave their door, journalists ask him, do you have evidence behind that? Because no one wants that at all. Steve Kerr, if you're going to tell us that common sense gun laws are not going to solve everything, but they will save lives, show us. Ask that question. Please provide the evidence, because if it really does, we're on board, baby. Let's go. Let's save these kids. Let's save our country, and let's save some lives. We all want that. I don't want to have to talk about school shootings anymore.
No.
I don't want to have to. But if you're going to bring up something like this, and he went on to say, if we had any guts, if our government had any guts, if people put others in front of their own career paths, similar to what he said after the Texas school shooting here, in front of their own re-election campaigns, in front of their own propaganda to manipulate people, it's right there in front of us. I don't know if Steve Kerr is trying to be manipulative himself, but I think he is manipulated. And then he's using whoever has manipulated him to spew out these common sense gun laws and these leftist talking points that don't do anyone any good. This is dividing us left and right again. So it's like, that's all he wants you to feel. It's like the left, they want to save people. The right, they care about power, and they'll care about power to the detriment and lives of kids. That's disgusting. And then you have people like, as we wrap this up, Pro Football Talk, Steve Kerr for president, Tim Kawakami. He was just saying it was an incredible, searing, gut-wrenching statement by Steve Kerr. You can see this video 100 times, and you really should. Des Bryant, Steve Kerr, you're a real one. Just watch your post-game interview. You have so many people that are praising Steve Kerr, but not actually getting to the substance. We want to get into the substance here. What are these common sense gun laws he's bringing up? What is the actual solution? And that's what we need to do. And I think as we wrap this up, obviously make sure you subscribe to the Breakaway podcast, subscribe to us on YouTube. Press the bell so you get notified for all the great non-woke sports talk and conversation here. Hopefully you're hearing conversations here and the truth, because you're not getting it from other outlets. You're not getting it from the sports media that is just going to sit back and they're going to listen and not actually do their job. We're on Apple and Spotify. Leave a 5-star review. And once again, thoughts and prayers to everybody that's been affected by this horrible tragedy in Texas. But I hope conversations like this happen and then we can find a solution, because Lord knows I don't want sports to divide us anymore. I don't want to see any innocent lives being lost anymore. But I think there is some solutions, and hopefully we can come together as Americans and find that. Thanks for watching the Breakaway podcast. See you next time.